Hello. Today we're going to be going over an exciting resource for those who are interested in philosophy. Today's topic is PhilPapers. PhilPapers is a comprehensive index of philosophy books and articles and is also an open access archive. Besides the comprehensive index called PhilPapers or the open access archive called the PhilArchive, there's also a set of networking tools including PhilPeople, PhilEvents, and PhilJobs. PhilPapers is not a resource specific to the McNeese Library. If you Google PhilPapers, the first result is the one you need. When looking at the front page, there's a lot to cover. First, we'll go to the Browse by Topic section. We have major fields in philosophy, and underneath are the subfields. To the top, we have our basic search engine, and then we have above that the individual parts of the overall PhilPapers website. Today, we'll mainly be looking at PhilPapers and PhilArchive. Much like our other tutorials, our topic for today is end-of-life care within the scope of bioethics. So we're going to type in our search phrase. As always, we'll start with our quotation marks. And so we have about 360 sources available to us. If we look to the right, we have some limiters under restrictions. If you limit your search to pro authors only, you will only see sources from individuals who have a PhD in philosophy and have been published in some of the main journals in philosophy. Under this, we have the online only box. Because PhilPapers is first and foremost an index, it is possible to see entries from sources that are not actually available online and have only been published in print. Generally speaking, it is more helpful for you to maintain this checkbox here in the online only box. And then below that, we have the open access only. This means that overall, the sources that come up in your search should be accessible to you. So we'll scroll down a little bit and see what has come up in our search. Here we have end-of-life decisions and medical practice. Before we actually access the entry, I'd like to show you a couple of things. We have a couple of related fields hyperlinked for us here. We have biomedical ethics and euthanasia. Below, we have direct download. This means that there are 8 different ways we should be able to access this source. If we want to collect the citation for looking at further, we can export it and we can bookmark. But we'll click the main hyperlink and go to the entry. Much like a regular database, we have the abstract. Again, those related categories, we have the DOI, and we'll scroll down. Here we have download options. Again, it's important that I reiterate that PhilPapers is not a traditional database as you would think of it. Instead, it is an index. An index means that it compiles all the information about these different resources, but you may not actually have access to them. And so when you use an index, it's really helpful to get a wide scope over all the potential sources in this area that you're researching. And then at that point, after you've used the index, you would potentially go back to the McNeese Library website and try to find the full source there. And if it's not there, you could use the interlibrary loan process that's available to us through our library. However, this should not be necessary for this particular source. So if we look at external links, we have several here. And then we can even try to find it on Google Scholar. So we'll do both. We'll do find it on Scholar. We have the entry here. And if we look to the right, pretty much anytime you're in Google Scholar and you have this sort of hyperlink, typically it'll say either HTML or PDF. This means that you have access to the full text version. And so we can click that. And here's our source. And let's try any of these other external links. Personally, I would go with the NCBI link because it's from the NIH. We'll click that. And here we go. But let's say we want to discover more from these other related fields. So we have biomedical ethics and we have medical ethics. Let's go with biomedical ethics. So we'll click that. And now we have all the related categories and subcategories under biomedical ethics. If you look at the right of each hyperlink, these are the number of articles that are in that category. And so we can see that euthanasia is written about much more than cryonics, for instance. Let's now go to euthanasia. We have that list of related categories again, and then we have our sources. Now, for the sake of this tutorial, let's go ahead and uncheck this open access box. And so we're going to see different types of sources than we did previously. And for example, we now have a lot more available sources to go through. Now I'd like to take your attention to the PhilArchive. We'll go up to the very top of the screen. When we were searching through PhilPapers, we were actually going through sources that are in the Phil archive as well. Because PhilPapers is an index, everything in the Phil archive is contained within the PhilPapers. However, it might be useful for you to search just in the Phil archive to make sure that what you're accessing is fully accessible to you and accessible through the Phil archive as opposed to something like Google Scholar or other means. As we look at this entry within the Phil archive, we'll see that it looks a lot like what we've seen in a typical database. We have our standard download button, a how to cite feature, and so this provides a generated citation that you can use, though as always, make sure to double check it before you include it in any assignment that needs to be graded. We have our abstract and a set of keywords that were not previously available to us, and then we have our categories, which were. Click on closure, and so these are the sources with that keyword. But what's really interesting is that if we look a little bit under closure here, we'll see that we have several bibliographies that we can look at. In case you have any questions that weren't covered in our introduction, you can click this button and it will take you through a website guided tour. And this concludes our introduction to PhilPapers. We hope that you found this information helpful, but as always, if we can be of any help in any of your research projects, please reach out to the library and one of our librarians will be more than happy to assist you. Thank you.